An American and a Soviet are arguing politics. America is such a great nation, said the American. In my country, anyone can walk right up to the White House and shout for all to hear, "The President of the United States is an idiot and a crook." The Soviet smiles and responds, "So what's the big deal? In my country, too, anyone can walk right up to the Kremlin and shout for all to hear, 'The President of the United States is an idiot and a crook.'"
The Middle East during the Cold War didn't play as large of a part in the Cold War as the US and Russia, but it still holds major significance. Most of the Middle East's battles during this time were fought between its own countries, but Western countries stirred up the tension with them. Three major religions sprouted in Palestine, resulting in everyone wanting the land. This led to conflict when all three religions wanted Palestinian land.
The U.S. and other Western countries got involved in the Cold War with the Middle East when they tried to have dominance over their oil. Although the Middle East was a small factor in the war, it still made a large impact.
Half of the Middle East Cold War took place in the Middle East between its own countries. The tension was created over the three main religions that originated in Palestine. With three different religions trying to dominate Palestine, the first part of the Middle East involvement in the Cold War began.
The belief of Zionism, which was the belief that Jews should have a homeland, was established. It was a movement that protected the Jews and endorsed a national movement of Jews to their previous homeland, Palestine.
Great Britain devised the Balfour Declaration, which was a document giving Jews a homeland in Palestine. Great Britain took it upon themselves to give the Jews land, which Great Britain didn't even own. Very typical. This was a problem because three major religions sprouted in Palestine, so each individual religion all wanted the land.
Great Britain went back on their declaration and gave the power to the United Nations because they realized how many problems it was causing. The UN eventually decided to split Palestine into two regions, one for the Jews, one for the Arabs. Though the Arabs rejected the plan because they didn't want to give up the land to the Jews, Zionists agreed and Israel was created as an independent state.
Question 1. What is Zionism? A. The Jewish religion. B. The belief Jews should have a homeland. C. The declaration that allowed for Palestine to be split. Or D. Terrorists who oppose the Jewish religion. The correct answer is B. The belief Jews should have a homeland.
Victory screech!
This caused land disputes between Christians, Jews, and Muslims because they all wanted the Holy Land of Jerusalem, which was located in Israel. In the Six-Day War, Egypt and Syria threatened the new country of Israel by mobilizing their forces on Israel's borders because they wanted the land and power. Israel launched an attack on Egypt and Syria, taking over some of their land. In the Yom Kippur War, Arabs launched a surprise attack on Israel because they wanted to reclaim the land they had lost in the Arab-Israeli War. Egypt entered the Sinai Peninsula and Syria entered the Golan Heights. The Arabs' plan failed and Israel won the war, allowing for them to maintain control of the land.
Question 2. What were the three main religions that originated in Palestine? A. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. B. Hindu, Islam, and Christianity. C. Islam, Christianity, and Buddhism. Or D. Judaism, Hindu, and Islam. The correct answer is A. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
After these land disputes, peace between Egypt and Israel was established through the Camp David Accords. The Camp David Accords was a peace treaty signed between Egypt, Israel, and the United States at Camp David, located in Maryland. Camp David is a campground in the United States where important leaders came together to argue about policies.
At the meetings, the leaders would yell at each other, leave, do camp activities, and then come back to argue more. Essentially, the leaders were just camping. The U.S. helped to create peace between Israel and Egypt, but many people back in the Middle East doubted that the peace would happen because they didn't think that after all the years of disputes, it would just end with a treaty. Granting all this, the peace treaty gave Egypt back the Sinai Peninsula that Israel gained from them during the Six-Day War.
The first thing upon which we agreed was to ask the people of the world to pray that our negotiations would be successful. Those prayers have been answered.
Question 3. What countries signed the Camp David Accords? A. Great Britain, France, and Egypt. B. Great Britain, the U.S., and Egypt. C. Israel, Egypt, and the U.S. Or D. Iran, Israel, and Egypt. The correct answer is C. Israel, Egypt, and the U.S.
The second part of the Middle East Cold War was caused by their surplus of oil. With foreign countries trying to control their oil, tension grew. Middle Eastern countries desperately wanted independence from foreign rule, starting the Middle East oil dispute. What is the difference between a tragedy and a catastrophe? A tragedy is a ship full of national Iranian oil executives going down in a storm. A catastrophe is when they can all swim.
When the U.S. and other Western countries got involved with Israel, Middle Eastern countries got justifiably angry. The Middle East controlled most of the world's oil at the time and cut off the Western countries like U.S. and Great Britain because they were sick of the foreign dominance. After this, countries like Iran nationalized their oil through OPEC, which is a national oil organization. Want to hear a joke? National Iranian Oil.
Part of the reason the countries involved with OPEC cut off the Western countries was due to their alliance with Israel. Israel was used by the United States as a buffer country from Egypt, and the U.S. did not want the Soviets to be allied with Israel.
Question 4. What was OPEC? A. Middle Eastern countries. B. International Oil Organization. C. A treaty between Iran, the U.S., and Egypt. Or D. Great Britain's nationalized oil. The correct answer is B. International Oil Organization.
Some 60 Americans, including our fellow citizen whom you just saw bound and blindfolded, are now beginning their 6th day of captivity inside the U.S. Embassy in Tehran.
In the 1970s, many Iranians were fed up with the Shah's government, and followers of Ayatollah Khomeini, who was a leader that promised his people a change that they desperately wanted, all revolted. The Shah fled to the U.S. for cancer treatment. He needed medical attention that only the U.S. could provide. Iran got the news that the U.S. was aiding the Shah and kidnapped 66 Americans from the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, Iran, and held them hostage in the Iranian hostage crisis. The majority of the hostages were held for 444 days. Question 5. Who revolted because of the Shah's government? A. Iranian government. B. Ayatollah Khomeini and his followers. C. Citizens of Iran. Or D. The U.S. Embassy.
Another example of the Middle East showing off its power to the Western countries was when the Suez Crisis occurred.
Working in close cooperation with the RAF, they play their part in a round-the-clock bombing program, which brings high praise from the army chiefs.
Gamal Nasser, who was Egypt's leader of the new republic, wanted to modernize the country and get rid of foreign dominance. He looked to the U.S. and Great Britain for financial aid, and they later agreed to it. Later, Nasser made an agreement with the Soviets to get more money, and this alarmed the U.S. and Great Britain, and they withdrew their offers. Nasser tried to nationalize the Suez Crisis so other countries couldn't make money off of it. Great Britain and France came together to trick Nasser by acting like they would help him. Their goal was to completely take over the Suez Canal from Egypt, but the U.S. got news of it and immediately put an end to it.
Question 6. Why did Gamal Nasser, Egypt's leader, look to other countries for financial aid? A. He wanted to expand Egypt's land. B. He wanted to build up his military. C. He wanted to renovate the Suez Canal. Or D. He wanted to modernize the country and get rid of foreign dominance. The correct answer is D. He wanted to modernize the country and get rid of foreign dominance.
Although the focal point of the Cold War is on Russia and the U.S., the Middle East's Cold War had a large impact on many of the Western countries as well.